What would it be? In the last 40 years, the top three best duty pistols available. This is difficult. I need you to understand that no matter, it's hard. It's hard coming up with just three. You want and it makes you want to do these honorable mentions, but I don't want to chicken out and do honorable mentions. I'm gonna stick to the guns, and let me know in the comments below what your top three is. What do you consider the three kings of the duty pistol? Let me know below. Here we go. Glock came into the industry kicking ass and taking names. Like, really, for those of you who are not aware. Glock came through, Gaston Glock, the guy who created the Glock, um, never made guns before. He had made some knives out of like polymer type materials, but he never made a gun. And when the Austrian military did their trials, they want to replace their current handgun that was completely outdated. They tested a lot of guns, and the guns that ended up being chosen to test in the trials, the Glock 17 came in there and just annihilated the competition. They went up against, the HKP7. They went up against Steyr. They went up against Beretta. They went up against FN and the Browning High Power. They went up against the SIG 226 even. They kicked ass. They really did. And they won that entire, it was basically a huge torture test is what it actually was. Okay. And they dominated that torture test and beat out the competition. This was late 70s into 1980. Okay. They dominated. And it continues to be that way. And so right now, what we see is this huge fluctuation of polymer striker fired pistols. Now, you can hate Glock all you want. Okay. You can hate Glock until the end of time. The fact is, Glock is the gun that most other manufacturers are trying to beat. They are the gun that everyone looks to and goes, we have to beat them. We have to outdo that. And so you'll see guns using Glock's trigger systems. And I mean, they do all these things, taking this from Glock, and this one took this from Glock, and they're all trying to take that spot. Let me tell you, it's not happening. Glock is in that spot for a reason, and they deserve it. They are gold standard reliability, period. Period. And we're not talking about 2,000, 3,000 rounds, 5,000 rounds. We're not talking 10,000 rounds. I'm telling you that personally, I've seen several Glocks eat through 100,000 rounds with very minimal maintenance. I mean, besides just cleaning, which all the guns got cleaning, the Glock could go longer without cleaning. It would go longer before malfunctioning than pretty much everything else in the gun case. And let me tell you, we had pretty much everything in that gun case that existed in 2013. And so it really is, it lives up to its name. It's not just BS. People, I've seen Glocks fail. Yeah, I've seen every gun fail. I've seen everything fail, pretty much. Virtually everything that's out there, I've seen fail, and more than 5 times. Okay, I've seen everything fall. I've seen revolvers fall. You hear guys talk about, I've seen revolvers, cylinders jam solid dozens of times. When you run a range, you're around guns all day, every day. It is your life. And so all those things are normal. It's not normal to somebody who just buys guns and collects them. They don't see the things that, a range officer who is a range officer for many years, they don't see what they see. Range officers have a very high IQ of reliability because it's what they do see and deal with every single day. You want to ask anyone, a professional, what guns are most reliable, go speak to RSOs. They will tell you without a doubt. And some of them do not even like Glock. Many do not like Glock. You ask an RSO who's been doing it for a while, 3 years plus, let's say, and they're going to tell you Glock is one of them. Bar none, no ifs, ands, or buts. Okay? Glock, Glock, Glock. One of the three kings. Let's go. HK USP. My goodness, this gun was made during the time that the HK Mark 23 was being made, and the Mark 23 was, of course, the gun that they ended up adopting in our special forces, Navy SEALs. Eventually, they stopped using that, and I know they picked up the 226 for a while, and I believe even the Glock. But the HK Mark 23 was, without a doubt, one of the most rugged, reliable, offensive pistols ever made. And the USP, they wanted to make a civilian version of this, basically, and that's what they had with the USP. Now, when I tell you this thing is reliable, like, that's an understatement. And one of the things they did, I know this was they were really making this around 1991 to 93, I believe it was. And they, one of their test runs, one of the guns they made, and they were testing to make basically an invincible civilian handgun. Like, honestly, one of them that they made went 20,000 rounds without one single malfunction whatsoever. Um, and they also, and I think they had three at the time, and one of them went 20,000, nothing. Also, they actually purposely created a squib situation with this gun. Check this out. This is crazy. They created a squib situation. If you don't know what a squib situation is, it means that you basically put a bullet in the barrel that, as if it was fired, but it was basically a dud, a squib, where someone forgot to really put firing powder in the cartridge. The primer's hit, it ignites it. It's enough to push it out, but not enough to launch it out, like, you know what I mean? So the bullet then gets stuck in the barrel. So they created this situation and put a squib bullet in the barrel and then put another round behind it to shoot the gun with a bullet blocking the barrel. When they fired it, it didn't explode. The gun kept firing after doing this, after putting a squib bullet in the barrel, then putting another round behind it, a live round, firing it, that bullet hitting the bullet that was stuck in the barrel. The gun does not, blow up or anything. And in fact, once they, take the gun apart, make sure that everything is still fine, put it back together, and the gun's still grouping well, very well, almost as if nothing ever happened, and still went 6,000 rounds with no malfunctions after doing that. And by the way, those 20,000 rounds I was speaking of, they were all plus P rounds, by the way. Yes, it was serious. It really was. What they were doing with the HK was more rigorous than even what the Austrian trials were doing. And the Austrian trials were, it was some major stuff, because even in the Austrian trials, they purposely put what you would basically call a plus P plus plus round in those test guns, fired it. I think they fired 5 rounds of that, and then the gun had to be able to withstand that, have no broken parts, nothing wrong with it, and then go another 20,000 rounds. So their trials were very rigorous. But HK was very aware of that, those trials, and they wanted to take it a step further. And so they were already, doing things that had never been done with the Mark 23, and they wanted to keep that going with the civilian version, basically being the USP. And they did a dang good job. It is it was absolutely one of the most reliable guns in my rental case. Right there with the Glock. If not, if I had to put one above the other, it would be really hard to do that. To be honest, I don't even want to really speak on that. But the HKUSP is just a monster, and it was made to be that way from the very beginning. Um, Now, here's the other thing with HKUSP. I'm mainly speaking about variation one and two. Now, even the other ones are, as far as reliability is concerned, it's all the same. But with variation one and two, you had this amazing ability to set your gun up any way you wanted for concealed carry. It was the ultimate concealed carry pistol, without a doubt. Those variations went up to variation 9. Variation 8 was never created, but they had variation 1 and 2. And what that consisted of is variation 1 and 2 is the only ones that had was double action, single action, and they had a safety lever, which also was a decocker. And with that, you could carry the gun cocked and locked, right? In single action, safety on. You could carry it single action, safety off. You could carry it in double action, safety on, double action, safety off. You know, you however you wanted to carry that gun, you could. However you wanted to set it up once you drew the gun, you could do that also, right? So you can, if you have enough time, and let me tell you, being in situations in where you have to, your life's in danger and you have to pull your gun. Sorry to break it to you, they are not always a situation where you have 1 second to react and that's it. That's not real. That's not real life. In real life, you usually see it coming if you're an aware person. If you're not, if you're just oblivious, then yeah, these things are going to come. You only got 1 second to react. But if you're an aware person, in most cases, you see it coming along, and you have plenty of time to draw your pistol or put yourself in the most ready position without escalating the situation. And when you draw that gun, if you had it in double action with the safety off, you can draw that gun, take the safety off, and put it in single action from double action with just a swipe back of your thumb. You could do whatever you wanted to do with that gun, and that's what took it just that one extra step above the competition. So it's absolutely rugged. It's absolutely reliable. They can withstand squibs. They can withstand overpressured cartridges. They are monsters. And and that one step up, that variation 1 and 2 HKUSP puts you in a double action, single action situation with a decocker and safety, which allows you to be to choose whatever type of scenario you would like as far as concealed carry goes. An amazing firearm without question. Yes, indeed, the SIG P226. Now, listen, with the first two, you heard um, a similar pitch there. You heard me speaking about how reliable and rugged those guns are. It's a different tune with these. All right. Now, that's not to say that they aren't reliable, because they absolutely are. And we're going to get to that in just a moment. But what sets this apart from all the rest, I mean, all the handguns out there, the duty pistols out there, is the smoothness. It feels like butter, baby. When you're shooting that gun, it is the smoothest shooting handgun I've ever shot in my life. And I've shot more than most people. It's a lot of people say it's like the Cadillac, of handguns, because of how smooth it is when you're shooting it. It's very, very smooth. The trigger is like nothing else. It's nothing like the HK or a Glock trigger. It is its own thing. It's got this very soft feeling trigger pull, be it in double or single action. It's a very soft feeling, even when it's in double action and it's heavier. It's a 9 pound trigger, and you're pulling back on it. Still has this very soft feel to the trigger, something that is very unique to the SIG 226. The other thing about the SIG 226 that has a lot going for it is it has a almost a full length rail that the slide rides on, especially the first early German models, and that just helps with the accuracy. And let me tell you, so you didn't hear me speaking about those things with the Glock and the HK, and it's not to say that the Glock and the HK are not accurate, because they are, but the SIG's accuracy is just that top tier. It's that next level up. I mean, it's it's right there with um, the competition pistols that people use in competitions, that they trick out and whatnot, and and do all the things that they do to try to get a great advantage, and accuracy being very high on that list. SIG is, it's like their competition accurate right out the gate, and that has a lot to do with the trigger pull, the trigger feel, not the pounds per pressure or anything like that, but the actual feel of the trigger pull, and the rail. Okay, the full length rail. Um, and so these guns, look, I'm gonna give it to you real, right? 226 went up against Glock in the Austrian trials and they lost. 226 went up against Beretta in the American military trials and they lost. But a lot of people say that had more to do with cost than anything else. Not that Beretta was better than SIG. And I'll tell you like this, I absolutely do not believe that Beretta is better than SIG. Otherwise, I would view it as one of the three kings, and I don't. Um, but what happened even with that, they lost to Beretta, lost to SIG. But what they did do is they were also picked up by the Navy SEALs. SEALs had this gun for 2 decades, was it? I believe it was 2 decades. They had it for a while. They had it for a long. Don't quote me on that 2 decades thing. I feel like it was around 20 years, but I could be wrong about that. Because I know they had the Mark 23, and then they went to the SIG 226, basically the Mark 25. Um, and one of the reasons that they liked it so much is because they go in water, sand, and all that, and dirt. They have to deal with. They have to come up out of the water with that gun. It still needs to fire, and it can't get rusty and things of that nature. And it withstood that far better than anything else, far better than Berettas, because the Berettas were actually showing rust and whatnot when the SEALs were trying out other pistols after leaving the Mark 23. The SIG showed and proved that it was the gun. It was the gun, and that's what the SEALs went with. It wasn't a price thing. It was a what is going to work best for us. Period. No politics involved. Just straight what's best. And the SIG 226 won that. Okay. There's lots of different variations of the SIG 226. You have the 226 Legion, Mark 25. You see it here. Emperor, Scorpion, um, lots of different models, but they're all, for the most part, basically the same. Um, the other thing about them, as far as duty is concerned, is you have a decocker, you don't have a safety. All right, so when you carry the gun, you want to carry the gun in double action. So you rack around, the gun's in single action. When you rack it, you decock it, put it in double action, and now the gun is extremely safe with two internal safeties. All right. One being that there is a block so that the hammer could not go forward and hit the firing pin. Um, the second part is that hammer will not move, um, period, regardless. So even if there wasn't a block there, that hammer just will not go forward unless you hold down on the decocker, and then you can push that hammer forward without holding down that decocker, which that wouldn't make sense. You wouldn't be doing that anyway. The hammer will not and cannot go forward. All right. So it has these internal safeties built into it for duty use. And again, having that very smooth feeling trigger, even in double action, is unbelievable. And then once that first shot goes, you're then in single action. Or if you draw the weapon and you have the time, you can pull that hammer back and you're in single action. And that single action trigger pull is absolutely butter. It's very simple and easy to field strip, to take apart. Um, just as easy as the Glock, and um, I would say even easier than the HK. I'd say this one's actually the easiest to me, because sometimes you gotta have like these nails to grab on the Glock to pull those things down on the side. Sometimes it can be a little difficult. With this, it's very simple. You lock it to the rear. You drop that notch in the right above the trigger there. You just drop that down, and then slide goes forward. It comes. It's very very simple. You don't have to have nails or rough fingertips or anything to take it apart. Certain certain models of this gun actually can take us. So you see, 15 rounds is the normal, but there's some that even take 20 rounds, um, depending on the model you get. So it is just an absolutely groundbreaking, amazing duty pistol, and it shines in its own light. It really does. The Cadillac, just the smoothest shooting duty pistol on the market, in my opinion, absolutely, and in lots of other people's opinions. Sure, in 2015, the sales went to the Glock 19, but they were with SIG for a very long time, and um, that that says a lot. It really does. You can see here somebody is uh, speaking here about the accuracy, the trigger feeling, the ergonomics, and he's got it maxed out. And it really is. That's really how it feels. Now some people will speak that it has a high bore axis, and it does. It actually does have a high bore axis, but it makes up in that trigger pull and that trigger feel and the smoothness of the cycling of the slide. It really makes up for it. Absolutely amazing pistol, duty pistol. No doubt, one of the three kings.